Hey Tony, how you doing there, mate? Just seeing how this Bengal MKIII standing to you.
Yeah, sounds really nice.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, probably just give it a try on there, and yeah, okay. Maybe next up, try up sideband. Yep, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, back to you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My uppers are a little bit out, so but yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, cool. No worries. And then just finally on AM. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, AM sounds really nice.
Yeah, and just while you may be giving us count to 10, I'm just going to demo off the BHI-DSP in this rig and just see how that compares. Yeah, while you're counting through while it's on and off. So yeah, just give us count to 10 and back.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How's that?
Yeah, that's plenty. Gives me a A and B comparison. Yeah, awesome. No worries. All right. Thanks for that, Tony.
No problem.
Yeah, cheers. All right, see ya.
Okay, here we got an overview of this Pearce Simpson Super Bengal MKIII. Had 4 different boards installed. So beginning with the blue clock update, which is nice and neat, and obviously installed in there, as you can see. Custom designed PCB that was made up, I drew up. That works fine. And the next power up. Just show off the little BHI-DSP that was installed, all the wiring, the audio cable, powers, ground, and also the switch on and off the green wire for disable or enable, so that if that's with BHI on, let's switch it off. Back on. Quite a big change there. Okay, so next up, just a quick overview on the restoration work on the radio, which all the aluminium panels were pulled out, all fresh heatsink placed on all the componentry involved, or any 2 surfaces making connection with each other were fresh heatsink applied, heatsink paste applied. Then obviously the wiring in of, for example, the frequency counter. So that obviously just runs through this little plug attachment, mounted in through, and comes through the grommet, wiring through, and then it goes on to the other side on the PCB. What else is quickly that I need to go through? I think that covers it. Now the main cool update of this video is the new update of DigiMax Lite from Circuit Domain. Max done an absolutely brilliant job with this kit. Just phenomenal. So yeah, version 2.7 hardware, 2.5 firmware, and now rather than having to wire all the wires from his kit into the radio like all previous installations have been done, this one simply uses the IDC connector ribbon cable into. Now this is the first radio to have this expansion board using the MC145106 adapter plate, which I drew up and designed. So it plug and play directly into the board that I designed. And the other cool thing about on my board is I incorporate this little trim adjustment, which all these rigs, as anyone who tunes these radios would know, that the 10.24 megahertz crystal does not have an adjustment for that crystal. So there's a slight amount of skew when you go over, say, 100 channels or so, maybe 20-30 hertz. And so with this radio boasting at about 300 lot channels, which obviously usable about 200, but anyway, there is quite a bit of skew over that time. So with that, now locking in that 10 kc step or 5 kc step to perfectly online, it won't skew at all between the bottom and top channels. So basically the only 3 wires that need to be hardwired in when doing a DigiMax Lite install into these 8719 chassis when using this adapter plate is literally just these 3 wires, because otherwise it's just plug and play. So all the wires from DigiMax plug and play straight into mine. The only 3 wires you have to worry about is squelch, power, and PTT. Now squelch just gets routed underneath the board into one of these transistors here. The PTT, rather than wiring into the microphone PTT line, I wire it into one of the transistors over here that happens to only switch on and off when the squelch knob is in CB mode. If you go into PA mode, the PTT line won't make any difference to the DigiMax kit. So yeah, all those wiring literally just come to my kit. I route it through the internal circuitry, through the ribbon cable into his kit. So basically, to install it, my board in, you just remove the old PLL, and as you can see, there's the pins from this header that sit in where the old PLL used to be on the main chassis board, and this just takes over. What else I'm trying to think of that I need to say, but no, that's pretty much it. Other than that, a bunch of components were extracted, cleaned, crystals, a bunch of capacitors replaced, and other than that, let's get on to actually just showing how the DigiMax is set up and works. Okay, so basically, nice smooth operation of the front dial. So one press of this take you to the home channel, which at the moment is set to channel 35. 2 presses of that button will engage scan, scan down, or if you turn the rotator to the right, it will scan upwards, and it'll just scan all the frequencies that it locked on to, and basically open up the squelch, and it'll stop scanning straight away. You can obviously see in there that little indicator for when squelch is closed or open. Then for repeater function, you press the button 3 times, split, and then what it asks you for is how far away do you want the TX frequency to move away from the RX. So anything from 100 channels separation down to 1. So I don't know, if we maybe choose 5. Now we've got 5 channel separation, but do you want the TX to go 5 channels above or below? Either way. Maybe we'll choose low this time. And done. So we're sitting at somewhere like 100 channel 134. So if we hit TX up there, which will just bring you that TX RX Lite into view, it'll go down by 5 to 129. So really neat. Yeah, pretty cool. So if you then move up to another channel, I don't know, or down to another channel, 100 maybe 20, it should be then TX 115. To stop the repeater function, simply just press the button once, and now it'll just be standard simplex like it should be. Then to set up the kit, you press 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first option obviously lets you choose your PLL. Obviously we are choosing 106 because we're using a MC145106. UPD 858 for all the President Adams, Ferris 5000s, Robin 520, 510, etc, etc. Cybernet's PLL 02A. Now this is the option you would use in this radio if you didn't have the expansion board in there and just using the generic MB8719 PLL, but since we have this adapter board, we'll just use 106. Encode 79 for this rig no matter what PLL. Squelch happens to be high on this rig. Home channel, maybe let's choose, I don't know, maybe 16. Lock detect. Now this is the really cool feature that Mac has incorporated in this kit. Super cool. it automatically listens to the lock detect pin on the PLL and figures out basically where the VCO will be in lock or out of lock, so that you don't waste time rotating this control looking or listening to channels that are unsuccessfully locked in the PLL. Basically useless. So we choose on and you press and let it go for a walk, and you just watch how many channels your radio can do. Normally these chassis would stop at 108, as anyone who's installed DigiMax Lite into these chassis beforehand would know. So 108 being the old limit, and on it goes. You can see the frequency counter matching up with what's going on, just counting and counting away. So 200. Can hear the 260. You really can hear the VCO struggling there towards the end. Get to about minus 10, yeah, which is about right. Yep, that's right. So really we have, let me see. Minus 8 to 261. I mean, that's like, yeah, 269. If you add those two numbers together, 269, and then 269 plus 5, so 274 channels all up there that time. Depending on sometimes when you run this lock detect on these particular chassis with this particular arrangement, you might get more channels in the negative direction. But with the way I'm trying to reach the positive end of the channels, really the useful channel range is really from channel, say, minus 4, minus 6, somewhere around there, to about channel 250 with any sort of RX or TX capability, and then realistically about 200 channels from 1 to 200 that are reasonably good sensitivity in RX and pretty much reasonably okay normal, you know, normal TX RF power. So anyway, that's the kit. It's pretty much ready to go, and next up we'll just move on to the next part of the demo videos to show how the TX and the RX are performing. So I highly recommend this kit. It seriously is the best around. It's just too good. Alright, till the next one. Alright, here we got the TX demo. So basically I'll just hit transmit on the little microphone jig, or I should say the microphone socket jig, with a 1 kilohertz tone generator, and yeah, let's see how we go. Onto TX, and you'll be able to watch there's already 5 watts at minus 40. So be able to see it come up to about 10 watts by the time we hit minus 17, minus 16. So that basically all the channels we require or are looking for have a fairly solid 12-13 watts of power. Let's just see how it responds up the upper region. So we're already up to channel 85, and we've still got nice solid 13-14 watts there. 100, keeping a nice solid power output there, no problems at all. That's brilliant. Right up to channel 160 now. Yep, going very strong. Now it is starting to dip a little bit up here. We can see a slight dip now. That we're sort of heading back down to 10 watts at channel 200, and now dipping down about, was it 7 watts or something, 7.5 at channel 225, and it is gradually dropping as we go to channel 240 at 5 watts, like we did right at minus 40, and then we're down to 4 watts at channel 250 or so. And how many channels did we have in this? 255. So yeah, there you go. There's pretty much TX power coming across all possible frequencies from -40 to 258. So pretty broadband there. TX wise, not a problem. We've definitely got coverage there. Alright, next up we'll look at the RX side of things. Alrighty, just a demo for the receive on this Super Bengal MKIII. And to begin with, I'll just pull up a RX response curve chart, which should now be on the screen. And I use two lines of thinking for this chart. One, with a higher level of insertion of 4 microvolt in order to get some S meter readings in the middle range, which I understand will affect the AGC. And also, because of that AGC issue, I used another method using the audio output from the speaker jack into the spectrum analyzer at 0.5 microvolt. And as you can see on the chart, there are 3 points of interest: channel 30, 100 and 180. Channel 30 and 180 being the peak points, and channel 100 being the dip in that so-called 200 channel range we're talking about. So the reason I allowed for 3.2 dB loss here, first of all, is that in audio engineering terms, for the human ear to perceive a change in audio level, you need at least 3 dB change in the sound of audio, or whatever it is, tone, music, or whatever. So with that thought in mind, obviously because I do some mixing and so forth at the studio at home and etc. at recording, I allowed for this 3.2 dB loss. Now if we wanted to make that loss less, you would just have to give up some of the channels that you'd want to be able to reach. You just can't have it both ways. We can't have a flat curve there and have 250 channels of usable receive. It's just these radios aren't designed to do more than 40 channels to begin with, so to get even this amount is really quite amazing. So anyway, basically, yeah, we're going for 200 channels, allowing for the 3.2 or 3 dB loss over those 200 channels. And obviously you can see before channel 30, as we start to walk backwards, it'll curve from especially channel 1 downwards really harshly, and from channel 200 it will really start to drop quite dramatically as well, as we'll see later on that spectrum analyzer chart, or the screen I should say. So let's start with channel -6 and let's go for it. So we've got a dip of about, or let me see, it should be about 4.4 dB with an S meter reading of 0.75, I guess you could say. So go up in 10 channel steps to channel 4. You should have about a drop of 2.8 dB and about S meter reading of 1. And we now have a drop in the audio level of about 1.2 dB with S meter reading of 1.25. Keeping in mind that these S meters aren't completely linear, but just an idea. Practically no loss in the audio, about 0.4 dB, S meter reading of about 2. Obviously here we hit our peak point of S meter reading of about, I don't know, 2.25, 2.5 you could say. And yeah, zero loss obviously, because this is our peak channel, right? So that's it, let's go, keep going. Channel 40. Still about an S meter reading of just a bit over 2. Obviously just a very marginal drop in receive. You know, half a dB or so. S meter reading of about 2. And about 0.8 dB loss on the the spec chart there, or the screen. About 1.75 on the S meter, and about 1.2 dB loss on the audio. S meter just over 1, so maybe 1.25 if you want to try and break it down into quarter brackets per number. Yeah, and so yeah, about 1.5 dB loss on the audio, channel 70 that is. So now let's go to 80. Just over S meter reading of 1. Yeah, the audio is showing a bit more loss now, at about 2 dB loss. Channel 90, should be a dip point soon. Yeah, so pretty much level of S meter reading 1 and about 2.8 dB loss on the spectrum analyzer. This should be our dip now, channel 100. Yeah, so level S meter reading of 1. And yeah, we're looking at about a 3.2 dB loss on that chart up there. So just bring a nice close-up picture of that spectrum analyzer there right now for you, so you can see that in this current live run. Okay, now let's keep going. Yep, so still very similar readings. About, yeah, minus 3 dB. Should start to improve, should start to, improve soon. Working towards channel 180 peak. Yeah, just under 3 dB loss on the audio. Yeah, let's keep moving on. Yep, down to about 2 dB loss on the audio and about just a bit over S1 meter reading. About 1.5 dB loss on the audio at the moment. Still just over S1 reading. So sometimes the S meter reading doesn't correlate exactly to what's happening in the audio, so it's kind of interesting to see how the two interact now with 2 microvolt insertion. Yeah, really interesting. About 1.2 dB loss, and still the S meter hasn't really moved up. So 180 should be our peak point theoretically. Okay, so 30 is just slightly higher at this level of insertion. Keeping in mind that, yeah, every time you change the level of input, the response curve will slightly change. Now we've got a loss again of 3.2 dB, so here it will start to degrade as we keep going. So we got a bit under S1 reading now on the meter. Channel 200. Yes, you can really see the drop there. Now it's only reading 0.5 on the S meter, and we've now got a drop of 5.6 dB. So yeah, definitely you'd be noticing. You can actually hear the audio dropping that's coming out of the speaker right now. You can just literally just, yeah, you can really pick it out. Oops. Yeah, S meter of 0.25. An 8.4 dB loss. Still following a similar curve as the two charts. Now the S meter is not really moving much anymore. It's only just nudging. 11.6 dB loss at channel 220, which is 29206 or 205. And not really much use looking at the S meter anymore, just looking at the audio now, so it's 14.4 dB loss. VCO is starting to struggle. A 17.2 dB loss. So yeah, you can see the receive's getting quite deaf now. You wouldn't be able to work stations properly up here anymore, but you know, you could still have a bit of a listen if there's stronger stations. It's working, but it's just not very useful. Minus 19.2 dB. I don't think it's going to get to channel 260 because, yeah, no, it won't. It'll go out of lock. So anyway, that's the receive demo. and very interesting. Alright, cheers. Alright, here we just got a video of the VCO output of this Bengal MKIII. Without broadbanding that particular coil, the Q is much narrower and higher, of course, but we're sacrificing some of that height to get some width, and obviously we have to then obviously sacrifice some gain, so it's a little bit lower overall. But anyway, it's got a 2.4 dB change over, I think it's about 280 channels, channel minus 19 to positive 256, and channel 118 obviously being approximately the center point, 118, 119. So I'll do scan mode, and you can just watch the spectrum analyzer go between the peak where it's right now, channel 118, and it'll just keep scrolling through. Okay, so I've got it scrolling down. I might go and make it scroll up. So about channel 150 now going up. Channel 200, you can see it dip. And back to minus 20. So it does slightly warble as it goes. But yeah, you can sort of generally see that there's about a 2.4 dB change overall from the VCO output. And that's about all we need from that.